Welcome back. It's Scotty, and you're back from the States. So it's Motti. It's nice for you to show up.
I know, man. Sorry, I left you in the lurch because I was over in that America following Manchester United Football Club on their pre-season tour. And I went to one open training session, right? And I can, from that sort of 30, 40-minute training session, I can tell.
You can tell what?
21 is coming.
It is, yeah, it is. Sometime in the future, hopefully. Right, before we get into the topics, make sure you're subscribing. Make sure you're liking the video. Sorry, we've been short on the content, but for obvious reasons.
Look, don't start just throwing me under the bus, right? Just
well, starting doesn't mean to go on.
Do you know what I mean? Oh, he was in America, so we didn't do any content.
I didn't get a phone call or a postcard.
You had jobs to do on Stretford Paddock.
I've been in a complete quagmire, the worst summer of my life, and not even a phone call checking in. I was messaging you.
Steadying the ship on Stretford Paddock, yeah. You did an absolutely satisfactory job.
Don't even start me on that.
Right.
R5 finishes.
Well, I'm sorry. Speak to the powers that be when they schedule them.
Pretty sure your name's on the.
Well, they arrange their matches. What do you want me to do? Get Manchester United to change the kick-off time.
We've decided now.
You can't be asked getting up at 1:30 in the morning. Hey, sorry. I'll ring Sir Jim.
As if life wasn't hard enough. Anyway, right, positive stuff aside from you being a letdown. Done deals, Man United.
Dundee United. Done deals. Yeah. Well, right, sort of. Yeah. Because Xerxes obviously is done deal ages ago. Lenny Yoro done deal ages ago. And it's like, basically, Matthijs Ligt and Noussir Mazraoui are almost there. I think the latest we've got, right, we'll get into it. Fabrizio Romano tweeted, well, he reposted. I don't know, he tweeted an hour ago and then he's reposted it since. So I'll read it out. It says, Matthijs Ligt and Noussir Mazraoui have just completed medical tests at Cannington. Contracts set to be signed on both clubs and players' side with agent Rafaela Pimenta in Manchester. All documents to be okay within 24 hours as MDL, Matthijs Ligt, and Mazraoui will be ready for Fulham. So that's quite good, isn't it? That both those players, because I think if Luke Shaw's not fit, I can see Mazraoui starting, to be honest with you.
Ahead of a mass?
I think so. I was talking about this on the preview. We shot the preview earlier. It's on Stretford Paddock. It's going to be out in a couple of days. But I don't know, the fact he didn't give Hamas any minutes in the Charity Shield, wasn't even on the bench. I don't know if he'll start him in the Premier League. I was quite impressed with Harry Hamas.
Yeah, so was I.
I thought he did really well. Steve spoke to him a couple of times, once on camera, once off it. Seems like a real level-headed kid. I like the way he plays. He's very aggressive. He's on the front foot. He goes forward a lot. He was linking up well with Marcus Rashford. But I don't know if the manager will try a 17-year-old on his debut for the season opener.
Yeah, I agree. And
you know what I mean?
It's a must-win game as well, isn't it? We've got to hit the ground.
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm glad you said that, because I was saying this the other day, and a few people earlier today, in the office, a few people laughing at me. It is a must-win game.
Oh, unbelievable! Because the pressure is on.
Yeah. If you lose to Fulham, bro, you're in all sorts of mire, aren't you already? People are going to go, "Where's Ruud van Nistelrooy? Oh, he's sat next to you, Ruud."
What? Get him on?
Yeah. Don't get him on. Like,
considering how bad Marcus Rashford's played last season, I won't be amiss.
Let's get into some comments. Mick Holohan says, woof, woof, mother truckers. Thomas Dickinson says, evening, gentlemen. Ines Fushi says, evening, guys. Calm C says, yo, geez. Brian Casey says, evening, lads. How are we all? You've been pretty positive this summer, which I don't like.
About the football.
About the football. I mean, yeah. We're all getting to all the other stuff.
Life in general.
Yeah.
But that's usually a good thing anyway, because, the football's usually better. Because it's a distraction from the stuff in real life.
Okay,
so that's the way I'm looking at it.
Yeah, and you've been very this is the first time I think you've been probably more optimistic than I have since I've known you when it comes to Manchester United.
I'm always optimistic at the beginning of the season. What it is, I tail off very, very quick. So if they get beat against Fulham, I'm thinking relegation battle. That's how could that, I expect.
Was you positive that we did last season?
Yeah.
Was you?
Yeah. Till the watch the Wolves game.
The Wolves game was terrible.
And then I think it didn't get any better from there, really.
No, it didn't.
Well, the FA Cup finals. You had to wait 9 months.
The Wolves game was the peak, if you look at it.
It was the peak
of the Premier League season. After we were undefeated.
It was a nice bookend, wasn't it? We started out with it.
Yeah. We had a clean sheet. We were undefeated. We scored. It was like, we were 7th in the table.
Got away with a penalty.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? That was about as good as it got. Because after that game, we started losing. But Erik kept his job, and we won the FA Cup. Did you watch the Community Shield?
I watched the Community Shield till 70 minutes, and I just got back from camping that day, and it was a 4-hour drive because the M62 had a crash. So I fell asleep, and then I woke up just as Johnny Evans was taking this.
Oh, really?
And then I thought I should have just carried on being.
I didn't even watch Johnny Evans' panel. I've not seen it.
Did you leave? Did you go?
No, I was in here. We did the watch along. I didn't go. I was tempted to, but
it's such a non.
Yeah, and I
non-game.
thought, do you know what it put me off? I thought, because I was tempted to take the kids, and I thought, I can't be bothered with that drive home.
Yeah.
Everyone's sulking if we lose to them in a game that's pretty meaningless. Do you know what I mean? I can stomach it if it's like the FA Cup final or whatever, but it'll just be a bit meh. And also, I like it's not, even though you're at Wembley and it's, you know, it's obviously a derby and that, it's not the first choice teams, is it? So it's a bit of a weird one.
Yeah.
And it's still a day do got Wembley in it.
It's ridiculous that it's actually held down there, considering the two Manchester clubs that are in it. They should, move it somewhere else.
Would you have the semi-final still at Wembley?
No, I think only the final, because I think it takes some of the sort of polish off it. It should be a one event. You earn your place just to play there. And the only reason they do the semi-finals is for the fucking commercial aspect of it.
Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it, the semi-finals at Wembley?
Yeah.
I remember, was it 94? I remember going
like
there,
when the finals when the finals were in Cardiff.
Yeah.
Did they have the semis down there as well?
That's a great question. I don't think they did, no.
Because I think they might have done, you know.
Did they?
Did we play Newcastle in the semi? Because I went to Cardiff to watch United versus Newcastle when we won 4-0, unless it was a cup game.
That must have been. That can't have been a final. Because Newcastle never gets a final.
No.
I think that Carabao Cup was the first final they've been to in years, I think. I think since 99. Get involved in the chat in the comments and let us know. Let us know if you know the answer to that one. Let us know what you thought about the Community Shield. Let us know what you think about the signings so far. I want to ask you about this, Scotty, because the big question is, do you feel like these signings have strengthened Manchester United's 11?
They've strengthened them in numbers. I think we've got more strength in depth. Whether they're going to fit right into whatever structure Ten Hag plans is yet to be seen. But I mean, the calibre of players from what we've seen them do at their clubs, we hope that they're going to improve ours, because let's have it right, they were dog shit last season. Yeah. And they really were. So, I think they could have spent even less money and probably improved on the team and bought B-rated players. But yeah, I'm excited. I mean, United have been after Ligt for forever. Yeah. The stats that are coming out of him, there was something from Statman Dave earlier on about he's the best. He's got the best stats for a Dutch defender. He's never given the ball away to lead to an opposition.
What Statman's
an
saying.
Opposition goal or something, and he can score as well. And I'm excited to see him in a United shirt.
This is good. Yeah, this is he tweeted just under an hour ago. De Ligt has not made a single error leading to an opponent's shot in league football.
To a shot
since he was a teenager. He's 25, the best Dutch centre back in the Premier League.
And he's not biased at all, Statman.
No, he's not. I can see that getting an absolutely rapturous reception from the Liverpool contingent. But no, that shows you what he's about. Did you see the Graham Souness thing on TalkSport?
I didn't see the Graham Souness. Believe me, I was doing lots of more interesting things like washing my car.
Yeah, exactly. I think washing paint dry is more interesting than listening to Graham Souness, but I saw it on Twitter. Basically, he said that De Ligt is lightweight.
This is the man who called Casemiro a water carrier.
Yeah, I mean, he can't really take Graham Souness seriously, can he?
I interviewed, I had Graham Souness on a show a few years ago on BBC. But what sometimes Graham Souness has brand deals and they put him forward and he has to talk about the brand, but he purposely does sort of, clickbaiting stuff because the interview will get more. Yeah, but because it was on the BBC, we had to cut out the bit that he was talking about whatever brand it is. But that's how you get you get the press release from I think it might have been not Greenhalls or one of them bar companies or something like that maybe. But yeah. So that's why it came ahead. But I think that's why I think he's sensationalist at best.
He is, and he comes out with a lot of stupidness anyway, doesn't he, Graham Souness? Remember what he said about De Zerbi, where he was like, look at how many clubs he's had. He's had 7 clubs in 3 years or something. He's obviously not a good manager. And I think if that's your amount of analysis you've got, not that you've watched him, not that you've watched his teams, not that you understand anything about his teams, don't forget as well he had to leave Shakhtar Donetsk because of the war. It wasn't his fault. Then you might have a little bit more...
What an excuse.
Yeah, do you know what I mean?
No, it's not for me, this. What do you mean you can't defend against a missile?
Get a grip. Come on. Souness, tell him. Yeah, so I just feel like sometimes he's just a bit of a dinosaur, innit? And I feel like that level of punditry is going. Because if you're a fan, even me, I'm 44, right? I don't remember Graham Souness playing.
No, not at all. I remember him managing Blackburn, am I right in saying he managed Blackburn?
Yeah.
And Southampton?
Yeah.
He had a heart attack, didn't he, around that time?
Yeah, he managed. I remember he managed in the Scousers as well.
Yeah.
But if you're like a certain age, you don't remember him as a player. So you're not going to be like, oh, it's Graham Souness, I'm in awe of what he's got to say, because I remember how good he was as a player. So you want to see what he's got to say for himself just as a pundit. And what he's got to say for himself as a pundit is less than your average man in the street in terms of insight.
Do you think that that's down to him as a person, or it's I don't want to stereotype everyone of a certain age, but with football changing now and becoming so much more analytical on the tactics or the stats, it's a different game to how you'd assess it back when Graham Souness, so I'm not just to play devil's advocate, he's looking at it from his blinkered mindset, because there's no way when he was playing for Liverpool they were bringing out all these XG didn't even exist and stuff. No. So it's a whole alien concept for him to do that. So he's only talking shit within the parameters that he knows.
Yeah, I get your point, but there has to be an element of you get feedback, you understand that you move with the times. Most pundits do. Like, you can't just keep trotting out like the title lines. Also, as well, there's no excuse for not doing a little bit of homework.
But the point is that if his sort of bullshit statements or videos make numbers on social media, what is the incentive there to do any homework? He's brought in... Remember when Keane first started? Because I think Keane's transformed himself in some ways, a pundit, because when he first came in, he was a bit more like pantomime villain with some of his commentary. Yeah. And he's really come into his own, hasn't he, over the last sort of couple of years. Whereas Souness has always kept that. And that's what you get with him. And I think that's why certain stations that will not be named have him on, because they know that United fans will click on whatever bullshit he's talking about.
But I think there's an element of that, maybe. But also, we've seen him on like certain shows where he can be, a bit more insightful. And I think, to be honest with you, I think it's just laziness.
Yeah.
I do. I think if you look at some of the comments he says, it's obvious he's not really watched that player, or he doesn't know that manager. And it's not, a case of just trying to fill a pantomime villain role, which might be that. But for me, it just feels like he can't be bothered. Yeah. He can't be bothered doing any homework. He can't be bothered looking, researching. He's just going to go, okay. The obvious example, which I didn't like, was like Moise Keane. When he was like, oh, he's 19, he's already been at 2 clubs. He must be a problem. No evidence to support that whatsoever. Do you know what I mean? It was just...
pulling theories out of the sky.
Yeah, I can't be bothered to do any research or ask anyone. And, we do it ourselves. I don't watch a lot of continental football. I don't watch a lot of the Dutch leagues. And I've had to comment on a lot of Dutch players because we've signed them almost exclusively over the last 2 years. So you speak to people that do, or you watch some clips. I know clips don't say too much, but you at least do a little bit. You look at, you scratch beneath the surface on some of the stats that you might see. Do you know what I mean? Like the big one, obvious one was with Anthony, and it was like people going on and on and on about his lack of goals and assists, and I've been as guilty of that as anyone. And you have to point out that at Ajax he wasn't that prolific. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And like if you look at what he brought to the Ajax team, a lot of it was almost from a defensive point of view, because he tracked back a lot, and Ajax defensively under Ten Hag were very, very solid. So it's little things like that where you think, if you're a pundit, you paid a lot of money, you don't do it on certain platforms as well. He's a little bit more insightful on Sky, for example. Yeah. I don't think
you expect more for that.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it feels a little bit like he's faxing in, and he's also encouraged by, is it Jim White who I think is presenting with him? And
it's like they're poking a bear with a stick, isn't it? Go on, wind them up.
Yeah, and I just find it a little bit lazy. Liam Cohen says he's a right sausage. Joe James John says Souness brain. His name is Ligt. It must be because he's lightweight. Liam Cohen says he's the football Nigel Farage. Andy Moore says, I remember Souness playing a right nasty bastard.
I've heard that.
Jamie Searle says, media have an agenda. Sky Sports today have just been talking about Ten Hag and the Dutch connection, even players that played there 8 years ago. Also saying De Ligt is a liability. King Dino says, we get a massive case of Cherry Max every 2 weeks because of his wife, and I smashed through it. Nice one, brother. Brian Casey says, Souness is just an arrogant knob. Leopards don't change their spot. Hit the like button, please, people. Please hit the like button. Which player that United have signed are you most excited about? Which is the one player where you've gone, ooh, yes. And you can count De Ligt and Mazraoui in this, because let's face it, they're all fucking done deals.
I'm excited to see Xerxes.
Joshua Xerxes.
Yeah, I was disappointed they didn't get on the pitch at Wembley, because if there's an area, there's across all areas we need improvement. But last year, with our lack of goals, I'm looking forward to seeing what he can bring to the team in terms of creativity and and running with the ball from deep as well. I think that's something that
we've missed.
And Ahmad, looked good in pre-season and did again. He did again in the Community Shield. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Xerxes. I saw a bit of him for Bologna last season, and he's got, he's not an out-and-out goal scorer, but he looks like a player that looks like he has fun when he's on the ball and is always looking for something to happen rather than sort of this sideways passing.
He must be chomping at the bit to get involved, because he didn't play for Holland, did he, other than 1 minute, I think, against England.
No.
When the game was already lost. They lost it, didn't they? When the game was already lost. So he didn't really get much of looking at Euros. He was behind the likes of Cody Gakpo and Memphis Depay, and even Wout Weghorst was getting minutes and he wasn't. So he's waited there. Now he's come to United, and United obviously biding their time with him. Didn't, like you just mentioned, didn't give many minutes in the Community Shield. There was talk, I think, of him featuring in a behind closed doors game this week. I don't know if he's going to be ready for Fulham, but I get your point. Yeah, he's definitely an exciting player. Bologna obviously got into the Champions League, I think, for the first time in their history last season, earning Thiago Motta a move to Juve, and Xerxes, although he wasn't prolific, I think he was their top scorer. Yeah. So he can score goals and he can run with the ball and he brings others in.
For a 6 foot, I think he's 6'4", he's proper dynamic. You know what I mean? You expect the way he moves in the ball is sort of the plays more with like lower sense of gravity. But yeah, I'm really excited to see him in a United shirt. 38 likes and there's 164 watching. Make sure you're hitting like, and if you haven't done already, press subscribe, please.
Jamie Searle says, actually, let's get into this one first. Liam Cohen says, how sad are you to see Aaron Wan-Bissaka go? I personally rate him over Diogo Dalot. Well, he says Dalot, but I've added in the Diogo. How sad are you to see Aaron Wan-Bissaka? You're not bothered?
Not as sad as you. I think in terms of being a defender, he was great at one-on-ones, but aside from that, his game was seriously lacking with moving the ball forward. And if that's your one attribute, which was he was brilliant at it. I'm not saying that he wasn't one of the best, at that. But I just think with the way modern football is, you need to be able to get down that wing and you need to be able to link up with the player in front of you.
I hear that argument a lot, but I think it was sort of, he wasn't that great going forward, but then people said he was terrible going forward, and I don't think he was. I remember the game against City, obviously at Old Trafford, where he did really well. And there's one or two others as well, maybe Newcastle and a few other games. I thought he was all right going forward. And I just think, for me, the reason I didn't want to see Aaron Wan-Bissaka go is I think in those two big games in particular, the Carabao Cup final and the FA Cup final, I thought he did a very, very good job under difficult circumstances, because Alan Saint-Maximin was tearing us apart. Dalot gets a booking, goes off, Wan-Bissaka does his job, and Jeremy Doku, who's a handful for City, again, Wan-Bissaka comes on and does his job. But if the manager doesn't fancy...
4 games though, aren't they, Jim?
No, not just 4 games. That's harsh, man, to say he had 4 good games.
No, I'm not saying he had 4 good games, but I mean, you're highlighting there. I'm looking for more consistency. I'd rather a full-back that maybe isn't as elite as him at tackling, but fair share of going forward.
But this is the thing, I think everyone said, he's shocking going forward, and I don't think he was. I think he was all right going forward, he just wasn't as good as Dalot. And I think that the trouble with Wan-Bissaka as well, that sort of went against him a little bit, is a lot of time he was asked to do these roles. He was asked to sort of, right, you stick with Mo Salah, even though he's not a left back, or you stick with Jeremy Doku, or you stick with Alan Saint-Maximin, or you stick with whoever, or you stick with Wilfried Zaha. And I think sometimes that sort of went against him, because then people are like, well, that's all he's got in his locker. And it is obviously his main attribute. And he's a very specialist type of player. And, I hope it doesn't come back to haunt us, in terms of like, if Mazraoui not as adept at defending. But if you've got a year left on your deal, you're not signing, or the manager don't fancy him, you always got the impression that he wasn't quite... There was a time when it was either him or Dalot, and I remember it looked like it was going to be Wan-Bissaka who was going to become the first choice. When Erik Ten Hag came in, it was already sort of the first choice under Ole, but it didn't happen. Going to West Ham, and I wish him well, I really do. But yeah, a good player, and I think he'll be kindly regarded at United. He's not a legend.
He's not left in any bad taste.
Was it 4 years at the club? I think,
he did decent, man, and we wish him all the best in his move. Right, we're looking at the done deals, and I think across the board what we've brought in is good business, and it's such a refreshing change to not be sat here worrying, no, are we going to sign anyone waiting until the end of the transfer deadline day like we have in times past. However, let's talk about the elephant in the room. What is going on with the midfield? Because I thought Casemiro was great at Wembley, And I think there might still be a player in there in Casemiro. But that isn't a Casemiro that's going to be able to do it week in, week out, right? Why are we not signing anyone in centre mid? And are we going to be signing anyone in centre mid?
It's a good question. I thought Casemiro he did well at Wembley. The thing with Casemiro, he did well at Wembley in the things I'm not worried about. I'm not worried about us going forward. And he was good going forward. He was picking out some passes and linking up well with the likes of Diallo and Bruno and everyone else. My main concern is defensively. And I don't look at Casemiro and his performance at Wembley and think it was a particularly defensive kind of performance.
No.
We need someone who can sit in front of that back four, because you can't ask Kobe Mainoo to do it. I don't think he's that type of player. I think he could do it if he had a part of a double pivot, but I don't think he could do it on his own. Bruno Fernandes isn't that guy, and I don't think they'll ask him to do it. He toyed with the idea of playing Mason Mount there. You remember when he first came for a couple of friendlies, but that just looked like it's a non-starter. Scott McTominay, don't see that happening, so it's probably going to be Casemiro, but I am concerned because I don't think he's up to it.
But is it as much of a worry as last season, given the defenders that we've brought in? Because obviously with him not having a great game and then relying on the two centre-backs behind him that were makeshift at best to sort with the problems, it's a shitstorm really, isn't it? But now because we have got like elite centre-backs, is that not better? Would that be a cause for us not to go into the market? Or can we even afford to keep buying players now?
I think you absolutely have to bring in a DM, and I'll tell you why. I get your point about elite centre-backs, but even when Casemiro's best spell at the club came when he had a fit Rafael Varane and a fit Lisandro Martinez behind him, who for me are as good a pet centre-back pairing as you're going to get. Like when they're fit, the mint, yeah? And I think that swapping a fit Rafael Varane, I know he was injured a lot, but I'm talking about when he was fit, for a fit Lenny Yoro or a fit Matthijs de Ligt, I think it's a bit of a sideways step. I don't think particularly right now Lenny Yoro is much better than Varane. I think Varane, when he was fit, was top tier.
Yeah,
he really
yeah,
was. So Casemiro, when we first got him, was great in front of them. He really was. And I think now taking that away and saying, well, we don't, I know you're not saying that, you're asking a question. Taking that away and going, well, do we need that now we've got Martinez and De Ligt or Martinez and Yoro? Well, I think, yeah, you do. I think you genuinely need that little bit of protection. And we saw it in the FA Cup final where you had, again, Rafael Varane sort of rolled back the years. He's just got injured again yesterday, didn't he? His debut of coma, which is a shame.
Yeah, 20 minutes.
And Martinez came back into the side, and I think he had an hour in him, didn't he? And it was a fantastic hour. And you had Amrabat, who did a job right in front of him. Also, very underrated performance by Scott McTominay, who basically just sat on Rodri for an hour, didn't he? And I thought he did very well on that, because I think Rodri makes him sick. And this is another thing I'm a little bit wary of with sort of looking too much into Casemiro's performance against City, because not only was he a bit further forward than perhaps we need him to be for United, also it was a little bit of a makeshift City team, and I think City are a completely different team without Rodri. I'm a bit obsessed with Rodri, even though I hate him because he plays for them lot. I just think he's unreal. So I just feel that for me, I almost felt like the most important signing we had to make this summer was a midfielder.
But we don't seem to have gone after anybody. Is that because there isn't anyone out there that we could get? Is there no one unavailable, do you think, across the board? And that's why we've not rushed in to buy a subpar defensive midfielder, knowing that we'll be stuck with him for 4 years, and we have improved in areas where we could get these players. Because I agree with you, they do need one. I'm just saying, is it as much a necessity now that we have sort of bolstered the back line? And Casemiro, obviously, there were rumours about him going to Saudi Arabia earlier on in the summer. I wonder if anything with the McTominay might be going, whether it's Casemiro, obviously we've got money for Wan-Bissaka, whether that's going to be a stumbling block now if we can get anybody else in this year.
Yeah, I think they are looking to move players on. Fulham came in, didn't it, for McTominay with a £20 million bid. United said no, Fulham haven't come back in with another one. There's all these rumours and reports that Casemiro could go to Saudi Arabia, but nothing concrete.
He looks happy though. He looks like he's smiling when he's at every United.
He looks like he's lost a little bit. He looked leaner in pre-season, doesn't he? He's looked like he's lost a little bit of timber. He has been smiling. He did get the captain's armband as well, didn't he, for some of the games in pre-season?
Yep.
And I thought that was a good move from Erik tonight, because we was chatting to Laurie Whitwell from The Athletic, and there was a report wanted that Varane and Casemiro questioned the manager, and they weren't really feeling his tactics, and they weren't really on board completely with what he was trying to do. Even though he obviously brought Casemiro in, I think they both sort of doubted him, I think would be the right word, and they were sort of quite vocal about that.
Is that worrying?
Well, it would have been, but I think it's been dealt with. I think, as you said, Casemiro looks happy. He's got the armband in, albeit in pre-season, but fair enough. And he's at least making the effort, and Varane's moved on. And let's not forget, his last game was winning the FA Cup final. So I think he's sort of weathered that one a little bit. I think you had 2 players that have probably, been at Madrid, won a lot, and they're here scrapping around for 8, thinking what's going on. Do you know what I mean? Work with Don Carlo, where you win the Champions League every year, and then all of a sudden it's like, come on, we can beat Fulham. Oh no, we haven't. The
thing is with Don Carlo, he's the antithesis of Ten Hag in many ways, because Ancelotti likes just go out and play football, lads. He doesn't overcomplicate it, and he's professed that himself. It's just about creating a happy atmosphere and then maybe tinkering it here and there. So from going from that to a masterful technician in what we believe Ten Hag to be, it must have been quite a transition. Right, okay. The player that we have got, and we're talking at the beginning of the show as to the pressure in the first game of the season, massive on Ten Hag that we win the game, massive on Manchester United season that we win the game, and I'm not overreacting with that. Rashford, do you think he needs to score on Friday?
I don't think he needs to score on Friday. I think he needs to have a good performance on Friday.
He can't miss the same sort of sitter he missed against City.
I think he's got to have a good performance. I think he can have a good game and not score. Loads of players do that. And I think if he plays well and United win, then everyone will go, right, fair enough. I think if he misses sitters or he has a bad game, regardless of result, I think the question mark is going to be around him. I've said this a million times, and I'll say it again. I said it 2 seasons ago. I said after the Ralph Rangnick season, Marcus Rashford had to have a good start to the season under Erik ten Hag, because Erik ten Hag didn't owe him anything. Plus, if you're not performing and your manager is under pressure, you're going to drop the players that aren't performing for you. And if Marcus Rashford isn't doing it, then he'll get dropped. And I think we're in that similar situation now. He's had a poor season last season. He has to have a good start to this season, because if he doesn't, you've got Alejandro Garnacho who can play in that position, you've got Amad Diallo who can play on the right, and you've got obviously loads of options. Well, not loads, but you've got Xerxes or Rasmus Højlund when he's fit. You can play down the middle, or you can even play Bruno Fernandes in a false 9, or Mason Mount on the right. So you've got options there, is my point I'm getting to. So I feel like Marcus Rashford, he has to have a good start to this season. He really does. I'm not massively concerned about what happened at the Community Shield. I think it was 2 chances he really... The first one, wasn't that he should have scored the first one, he should have hit the target and he was just well wide. That was poor. The second one, you've got to hit the target again, even though it's on your left or whatever. He's still got to hit the target, no excuses. So I look at it and I go, okay, it's not great, but it's not the end of the world. Against Fulham, like you're saying, if he's missing sitters, and I mean sitters, then the nine's going to be out for him. The nine's already out for Marcus Rashford, massively. And I think you look at the performances, Diallo, who's done well pre-season, performances against of Garnacho against City, he was phenomenal. Then he's under a bit of pressure, and it's a shame, because I thought we were seeing signs with Marcus. I was mentioned earlier about him and Harry Hamas during the, I think it was at the Arsenal and the Betis game, looking good together. And now it's like all the focus has been on Marcus missing these chances. So I think
he's got a lot riding on this season. For me, I feel like this is make or break for Marcus Rashford at Manchester United, because if he doesn't start bagging goals in, then Ten Hag can't continue to put faith in him like he did last season and give him enough time to keep missing, because Ten Hag's job's on the line as well this season. If he was to pursue with keeping Rashford in the team despite his form, if it's bad form, then it could be the end of Ten Hag. So it's a call that he's going to have to make.
Well, he's shown already, hasn't he, Ten Hag, his ruthlessness and his willingness to.
He didn't have options last season, did he? So that's the difference this season.
Well, no, I think my point I'm getting to is Anthony. He spent a lot of money on Anthony, but he didn't give him 1 minute in a FA Cup final, because when he push comes to shove and he knew that he couldn't rely on his kid, even though he spent a lot of money on him, he dropped him, and he's got to be the same with Marcus Rashford. If he's not performing, Garnacho can do a job on that left-hand side, and you know he can. Play him. Do you know what I mean?
Garnacho's not going to be happy if he's not getting picked, is he?
No, I think personally he'll end up playing when everyone's fit. If Marcus does sort of play to the levels he can, I'd expect Garnacho to keep his spot on the right side. I think Diallo will be the one that has to make way, because I love Diallo. I still think he's the one that's probably got to fight to get himself into the team, because he's only started really in pre-season. He's not really started any sort of Premier League games yet since he's been at United, or he might have 1 or 2, but not many. So I think it'll be interesting. But if Marcus doesn't perform, then I don't think Erik ten Hag's going to stick with him, because I don't think Erik ten Hag can afford to. Get involved in the comments and let us know what you think. Lee New says, Jay, given your track record for not getting carried away, would you say that Mazraoui is the greatest fullback in Premier League history? I wouldn't say in history. I think that's a bit of a stretch. Maybe just current Premier League players. He's probably
200 of you
there.
watching and only 58 likes. Can you get them numbers up, please? Love to get to, I don't know, what should we get to say? Is 100 too optimistic?
Yeah, 150 I think can do.
Before the end of the show.
Jamie Searle says, can't keep buying stopgaps, needs to get a familiar style 11 like City, Arsenal, Liverpool. You do, but you need to do that as like in stages, don't you? Like United this summer have gone okay. Lenny Yoro, for example, he's probably going to be a first team player sooner rather than later, innit? The Ligt, thereabouts. Who else have we got on there? Joshua Zirkzee is going to be an option. I think you look at the PSR and you look at the amount of money United can spend. Now, United can either go out, we can either buy these 4 players and maybe hopefully bring in some more, or we could have, gone out and spent, I don't know, 70, 80 million on a Victor Osimhen, for example. And you go, right, first, straight in the team, bad boy.
Yeah.
But that's where United have come unstuck before. We haven't built anything.
No, we're just pinning our hopes on one name. Big transfers every single season. That's why this seems such a alien concept, that these deals have all been done for around the 50 million mark. I'm right there. Even less if you look at the combined.
I think the Mazraoui one's very cheap. The Ligt, I think, around 40 million. Xerxes, similar fee. I think Lenny
There's
Yoro
a thought
was
process,
a bit more.
isn't there? That's what's been missing in years gone by.
Yeah. Let us know what you think. Jace Parker says Rashi will prove you wrong, Scotty. However,
I've not said him. I'm just asking.
Well, he says he'll prove you wrong. He says Jamie Searle says Rashi just needs to contribute, not necessarily scoring. And El says, I love Rashi, but he's fast running out of time now. It's the lack of work rate that's costing him backing from the fans. He looks disinterested. He looks just like he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders, to be honest with you. King Dino says, I think we'll have plenty of games for everyone to play. We will have a lot of games because of the Europa. It's going to be interesting to see how he shuffles his pack. The weird thing with Tanagi, it's not weird, but he goes pretty strong in the cups, doesn't he?
Like that first, well, it goes for everything, doesn't it? That first season, I think we did a show in the January and I said he's got to decide what he wants to go for here, because we were challenging on 4 fronts, but the wheels came off very, very quickly because he was trying to win everything, and that's, you know, admirable. Ferguson would have done exactly the same thing, but I imagine in the Carabao or League Cup he would have done like more young players and stuff and rested them. So I don't know. Where do you think we're going to end up next season? What's your prediction?
I think we might get 30.
That's it.
We're not getting top 2. I know you're shaking your head, and I know.
Don't call me cynical.
21 is coming, right? But unfortunately, I do think City and Arsenal are going to be the top 2.
Okay, I think that we seem to have got our shit together moving forward in terms of attacking. They look good again at Wembley. Yeah, I thought. It's not conceding goals. I have faith in Diallo.
Yeah, all right, fair enough. Right, so where are we finishing then?
Second, at worst. Europa League.
I said third, and you acted like I said we were going to get relegated, and I asked you where we're going to finish, one place above that. Yeah, all right. Sorry, Mr. Optimistic.
It's a long way between second and third. I'm not going to say first, am I? I'm not an idiot.
Why are you going to say second, right? You may as well say first.
I'm not going to say first on camera because I don't think that'll happen. There's a chance it could.
Why, you know, first and second, sometimes there's been goal difference between those two teams. Why can't you?
You know what? Well, we're in a race where everybody's starting on 0 points. Yeah. Maybe Manchester United could win the league this year. Fuck it, we're going to win the league this year.
There you go, you see.
It's coming. We're going to win the Europa League and we'll go out in the first round of the FA Cup or the third round or whatever it is.
How do you think we'll get on in the Cups? Genuinely?
I think we'll win the Europa League. Yeah. Genuinely. Taking my blinkers off, I think that what might happen is we might fall away from reaching top 4 and he might focus on the Europa as a way of getting in the Champions League.
Do a Jose. Jose did that, didn't he? I think Jose did that from about January onwards. Remember? And he was like, yeah, we're not getting in Europe through the Premier League.
I respect that, though.
I do.
It's horrible for the fans.
But who was your man there for the bald-headed geezer who used to play for City? Do you remember him? He gave me that. Was it Gundetti? I can't remember his name. Who in the semi-final in the last minute? Do you remember him missing that sitter? that would have knocked us out. And I was like, oh my God, you absolutely gambled with this one, Jose, because he should have just knocked us out. But he didn't, and we won. And Stockholm was one of the best nights I've had as a Manchester United fan. Lee News says, we're going to win the league, sticking my neck out. John Gudetti, yeah, that's what I thought, Gudetti, I can't pronounce his name there, also says Lee News. I remember that. It was like it was frozen in time. It was right in front of me, that as well. And he had like the whole net there to aim for, and he just fluffed it. And I was like, you know, when you think, because that's the season over. Yeah, no Champions League football, no Europa. I know we'd already won the League Cup, but come on, let's be real. Raf22 says it would help if Rashford played closer to the box instead of hugging the touchline. Strange strategy from Ten Hag last year. Going to wrap it up there. Scotty, always a pleasure, never a chore. You're going to be on Stretford Paddock on Wednesday, aren't you?
Wednesday and Friday, I think. I'm doing the watch along for Fulham.
You know, what do you think you are, J. Motti? Yes.
Well, I do more watch alongs than you. Swelling off to the States.
Listen, it was a tough job, but you know,
I wear them Trump rallies.
Yeah, it was good, man. You know what I mean? Make America great again and all that, he said. Great. Yeah, and, you know, I believe him. I've put a link to our Patreon in there. If you can support us with a Patreon subscription, we do appreciate it. That's been Scotty. I've been Motti. This has been a live video looking at Manchester United getting deals done. 21 is coming and all that jazz. Thanks for watching.